Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Now, the other day I was going through the Screwfix website and I come across that they're still selling this Energer pillar drill. The model is the ENB672DBT. I bought this one probably at least a year ago, so I thought it was about time I actually did a review since they're actually still selling them. Now, they're obviously still quite a popular model, not probably had many returns because otherwise Screwfix would have probably changed them by now. This has two really good things which will make it ideal for a lot of people to buy. One is its size. As you can see here, it's only about 580mm high, which is 23 inches, and it's only about 200mm wide, which is about 8 inches. So it's really compact. Now, the other good thing about this as well is that it really is a budget pillar drill. Currently on Screwfix's website there, this is as of July 2019, they're selling it for £44.99. I don't know many power tools that you can buy for less than that, so you do get an awful lot of machinery for your money. Now, the key features that Screwfix are listed on their site: it's a 350 watt motor, it has 5 speeds which range from 500 to 2,500 RPM, it has a 13mm key chuck. I believe this is a Morse taper one, so you do have to just knock it in place to start with. I think initially when I put it in, I had it drop out a couple of times until I got it seated properly, and it's been in there ever since. So I suspect you'll probably have to use a knockout bar down the spindle in order to get the chuck out. It has a steel table. The motor is air cooled. There's no overload protection. The guard here is telescopic, so it goes up and down with the actual chuck. And the table has a tilting range so that it's flat from 0 right the way to 45 degrees, and it does tilt both ways. Now, if I remember rightly, when this comes in the box, it probably comes in at least 3 pieces. So I believe you've got the main motor, you may well have the actual pillar on its own, the base plate, the table, and then just the little handles. Probably took me about 10-15 minutes on my own to put the whole thing together, so it is a nice, quick and easy job. The first thing I did when I got this was I checked how level everything was, but I didn't like the idea of just the steel table for when I'm drilling through all my woodwork. Make myself a little plywood table. That's something like 12mm ply, and I've just got some guides around there which fit around the edge of the table. So it goes on there, just to make sure that that is then totally 90 degrees to where the drill bit comes down. I did have to put a couple of pieces of insulation tape on the front there, so it's risen it probably by less than a millimetre on the front. Now, the table is quick and easily adjusted. You've just got this hand tightening nut there, so you can bring the table up to where you want, lock it down just like that. To tilt the table over from between the 0 and 45 degrees, there's a bolt in the bottom here, right under the table there, which is one like this, you just need a bigger spanner. It's a 13mm chuck, so at least it does take all the larger drill bits that you're probably likely to use. One of the other good little features on here as well is this locking guide. You've got a couple of nuts here that you just basically lower down to how far you want the spindle to drop, or your drill bit. And the other good thing is that they've put 2 nuts on here, because what you'll find is that with one nut, what you'll find is that if you're doing an awful lot of drilling, the vibration of the machinery will slowly move this nut either up or down, therefore alter your locking position. The only thing I don't like about that is the one time I had to use it, I needed it fairly well down the bottom here, so it does take a little while to bring down there. So it's really a feature that you'll only use if you've probably got a lot of drilling to do, or you need to be precise with your depth every time. The one really good thing about this is that if you've got a small shed like me where you don't have a lot of space, it's nice and compact. This weighs 11-12 kilos. The downfall of this being light is the buttons that we've got on the side here. I do have this switched on at the moment, and you'll find that because the buttons are at the top, you'll find that especially when you press the on button, as I'll demonstrate now, is that the machine will tip over when you push it. So I'll just literally use my finger to push it on. Now, the off button goes off almost instantly with a small touch, but as you see with the on button, the machine actually tilted over slightly like that. And what I've found is that when I use this, I tend to just put my hand on the top and use my thumb to switch it on. And that way you don't get the machine tipping over. The other thing the actual guard as well has is that if you undo these 2 nuts a bit, it does have an extending piece down there as well. So if you do have a long drill bit in there and you need the guard further down, at least you've got an extended guard you can have in there. Now, to change the speeds is actually quite easy, but the one annoying thing that I've found on here, and it's something you can quite easily change, is that you have to undo this screw that's on the side here. So often or not, if you did this up properly, you'd need a screwdriver. That would be the one design change I would do, is that I would have a hand turned locking nut that you can undo. And the reason you have to have that shut every time is that there's actually a switch here which has to be locked close in order for the motor to run. Changing the speeds is really quite easily. You have one nut here which releases the position of the motor. You can bring the motor in just to loosen the belt off. So in this case I want to slower the speed to take it down to 580 RPM. So I want to take it down to the larger one here. So it's better for me to lower it on the back one there. Just manually spin it around on the front one. Just make sure that the motor is tensioned again and lock it in place. With this being a budget pillar drill, you also do get those budget specifications as well. If you want engineering and precision, then this is not for you. The real downside on this is that the spindle does have a little bit of play in it. It's not much, but I think for general woodworking use, if you want to be certainly within a fraction of a millimetre, then this should still be fine. To me, this is an ideal piece of kit, just for my shed anyway, because one, it's small, it sits in the corner, it's quick and easy to use. You can quickly put a drill bit in there if you want to. Probably the main use I get out of this more than anything is using it with a sanding head. Now, the other real downside on this one, because it is so small, you've only got that 50mm depth that you can take the drill bit down. But there are ways around it. It may well bring in a little bit of inaccuracy, but you can certainly drill a lot lower. Here's a little storage box I made for my scroll saw blades, and as you can see for these, they are certainly longer than 50mm. So I'd have started with this on the actual foot of the machine this way, drilling that way first of all. When I got down the 50mm with all the holes, I then just basically had to manually put the drill bit back in place in the hole, lift it up so it almost bottomed out, and then put a block underneath, and I could then drill another 50mm. But certainly if you're doing that, just be careful, because you're starting off with the drill bit in your work and there is a good chance that it could catch, grab the piece of wood. So you need to make sure that your work is secure. The only other downside I find with this is that you have that limited space between the end of the chuck and either the table, or even in extreme circumstances, the foot. Now, if you've got a large drill bit in there, straight away you're taking up a lot of that space. So if I want to drill a 16mm hole with this drill bit, by the time I've got this in the chuck, if I'm using the table, straight away you can see that I've got a small amount of gap there. By the time I put on my table as well, the thickness of wood I can put in there now is somewhere between about 45mm, and that's with the table bottomed out. If I use the foot on here, then I'm looking at about 130mm. So that's also the problem with using a more compact pillar drill. Overall, I am really pleased with this, especially for the money that it costs. It's cheap, it's fairly compact, it's lightweight so you can move it around, it's not really noisy, and I've got to say, so far it's been 100% reliable. I've not had one single issue with this whatsoever, other than obviously the limitations of your workpiece. I've got to say it's an absolute bargain at £45, and I would thoroughly recommend this to anybody who's looking for that type of thing. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and thanks a lot for watching.